Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another special edition of the big countdown to what's going to be a bumper day at Royal Randwick on October 17. It is the $15 million Tab Everest. Hard to believe that much money for one single horse race. And it's terrific that the miEverest organisation is involved. Just to give you that little bit of background again, a slot came up in the Everest. It was bought for $880,000 by the My Runners organisation, then divided into 1,000 units. And I've got to say, we've been overwhelmed with the response we've had, with the majority of all those micro slots sold, but there are still some left. So go to the website. Remember, go to that website and you can get your slot. We've had the countdown. The trainers have been back. The jockeys have been back. The horses have never gone away. The connections are back. Members were back at the racetrack last week, and now general public can come back this weekend. Before we get to our special guest tonight, David Vandyke has got the legendary Alligator Blood in action. Let's go back to one of my favourite two-horse wars, and it featured Alligator Blood in the CS Hayes.
Speed is neutral. Third along the inside is Chenia from Your Deal. Dalasan is getting going 4 deep, flushing out Your Deal 3 deep, and they were followed by Soul Patch. They come around the turn at the 550. It's Alligator Blood held together from Catalyst, giving it the stare. The race is on now. Your Deal a length and a half away from Dalasan, stoked up. Chenia needs a run, then Soul Patch. 300 metres to go. Alligator Blood lets down now. Catalyst is sticking with him, and they were followed by Chenia. Alligator Blood at the 200 metres, about a neck in front. Catalyst on the outside is sticking with him. Alligator Blood at the 100. Catalyst digs in. They're stride for stride. Alligator Blood and Catalyst. Alligator Blood just in front of just one. Alligator Blood has beaten Catalyst.
Well, it's not quite Bone Crusher our Waverley Star, but let me tell you, it's not far from it. It was a terrific two-horse war, and a man who got the better side of that photo finish is David Vandyke, the trainer of Alligator Blood. G'day, David.
Hello, gee, I get goosebumps every time I watch that.
It's a terrific race. That's one of those true features about the racing industry, isn't it? When you get two of those great horses going at it like that.
Well, it was billed as one of the great clashes, the Kiwi and the Queenslander, and it just lived up to it. And Flemington, you know, it's such a long straight at the best of times. But when Catalyst came up to him there just at the 400, and we're off the bit, I thought, oh, we're probably 4 or 5 times up the straight. I thought we were gone, but he didn't think that. He just kept fighting, and it was an amazing performance.
The Blood has arrived back in your stable, and I know your owner's been pretty much on the front foot saying he's come back better than ever, and now he's going to be ready for the Everest. But you need a slot. I'm wondering whether you concur with the thoughts. Is the 1200 Everest the go, or is it the Golden Eagle over 1500?
Well, look, I think that he can be very competitive in the Everest. I think that we've seen him sprint very hard. In fact, the day he won the CS Hayes against Catalyst, he ran home in 33.3, and yet the Lightning, the same day over 1,000 metres, where you had Red Zell, Nature Strip performing, keep in mind over 400 metres less, only ran home in 33.6. So can he perform over 1,200 against the best? What we've seen, you'd have to say yes.
And some of those famous names, those hardcore, sprinters that have been around, all real war horses that are very, very hard to get past and have done their duties at the Group 1 level, they're sort of fallen by the wayside, haven't they? A little bit. You like of Red Zell and Piratas and certainly others. So this is a wide open sort of Everest.
Oh, it is. And we've got to keep in mind that most of the success that we've seen from Alligator Blood is basically in the one preparation. I mean, he hasn't had a decent spell since 12 months ago when he was competing in much lesser events in Queensland. So considering all that and the way he toughed it out right to the end, he's up to it to his eyeballs.
12 starts for Alligator Blood, 10 wins, only 1 second and only 1 unplaced run. Now, a little birdie told me you didn't think he was going to be a true star. It wasn't until that first start where you thought, oh my God, sort of, I've got something here. So you tell me the truth. Is my mail right, or did you always know you had something special in Alligator Blood?
Oh no, your mail's 100% correct. We went to the races. I was actually looking for a 1,000-metre race somewhere because he was a little bit fat going into his first up run. And I remember saying to Jeff Lloyd, look, 1,200's not ideal, Sunshine Coast big track, just ride him cold, ride him off the pace, and just see if he'll find the line. I said, if he runs top 3, it'll be a good effort. And he jumped out, he just took hold, went back, nice and patient, brought him to the outside. And I thought, gee whiz, he's going to finish off strong here. And I was just hoping he'd run 3rd. Then all of a sudden, we saw what potential he had. And when he hit the line that day, I couldn't believe it. Till I got down in the enclosure and saw the number up on the screen, I thought, how'd he win that? It was amazing performance.
And then he just, look, I'm led to believe Jeff jumped off and said, geez, we've got something special here.
Yes. No, that was the day we all thought that, this isn't just an average horse.
Look, give our viewers a little bit of an insight, if you can, about Alligator Blood and that name as well, because he suits the name, doesn't he?
He does. Alligator Blood's a term used in poker. In America, it's for someone who's tenacious, never gives up. When the chips are down, they just keep playing. They keep trying to get back. And look, that's him all over. He's such a tough horse. And we saw against Catalyst, he doesn't give up. We saw after that strenuous trip to the Magic Millions, and the fact that he was a bit rocked by that day. He got there late. The humidity was high, and he went out there and he just put in. And even his first start, he just wanted to win. He has that Alligator Blood, and it's very prophetic for him to be named that.
In fact, I reckon if you watch that CS Hayes back a few times, you can actually see him eyeball Catalyst when he gets up alongside him. Just think, you're not going to get past me.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's what cost him in the Caulfield Guineas when he ran a close second, because what happened, you could see near the line, he put one of his ears forward. Now, you look at any of his victories when he's in tough competition, he pins the ears and he really wants to hit the line. But he didn't see Super Seth coming that day. And if he had, he'd be 11 from 12.
Yeah, which is quite remarkable. So when we go back to thinking about, do you have a preference, David, when you think about, the $15 million of the Everest, which is quite remarkable. The fact you've got to get a slot. By the way, miEverest, my runners have a slot available, so you can make your pitch now because the horse sort of, the horse very much fits the profile of trying to break down the barriers of ownership, which is what the My Runners, miEverest campaign is all about. So 1,000 normal Aussies, men and women from the street, can now, their first foray into ownership, David, can actually be, their first ownership is a runner in the Everest, a $15 million race. It could be Alligator Blood. It's a pretty cool setup.
Oh, it is. It's fantastic. And, Alligator Blood's such a popular horse, and he is tenacious, and, he's had a good break now, and, running over 1,200 relatively fresh, especially keeping in mind what I said about the times he ran against Catalyst. And that was at the end of a long campaign, relatively fresh over 1,200. Really, he can mix it with the best. And I'd love to see him go out there with my runners all over him and 1,000 cheering part owners. That'd be fantastic.
Well, even bigger than that, because this week, I mentioned that now the general public's going to be allowed back into the racetrack from this weekend on, David. So we've really got fingers crossed that come October 17, we can have that big crowd at the Everest, because there's a special marquee plan for everyone who buys a micro unit with miEverest. You imagine the marquee, they can bring some friends, you know, it's all ticketed, of course. And can you imagine the roar if Alligator Blood is in that barrier and it is a miEverest horse? Can you imagine the cheer?
Oh, gee, and I had goosebumps watching the replay of the CS Hayes for about the 50th time. So, yeah, it'd be an amazing scene. It'd be unbelievable.
And it wasn't worth $15 million.
No, that certainly adds something to it.
If you don't mind, we've got some of our micro slot holders have fired in some questions for you. So are you okay to take some?
Lovely.
Which is great. Here we go. My question would be, what direction are you likely to take with AB? Not Alan Border, it's Alligator Blood, to set him up for the Everest. I followed AB through his last prep, as he will be a 4-year-old. Will he be doing anything differently, says Judy?
Good question, Judy. Look, at this stage, we're in negotiations with the Queensland racing principal clubs to work out whether we run him in Queensland before we head down for the Everest. Those negotiations are ongoing. How many trials we give AB before we get down there? We've got time on our side. Last preparation, you know, there were points in time when we couldn't afford anything to go wrong. We couldn't afford to back off at certain points. But we've given ourselves the freedom by missing the Winter Carnival in Queensland, giving him a nice break, where we can just take our time and we can basically let him tell us how quickly we can move forward. But in an ideal world, I would love to run him in Queensland 3 weeks before the Everest and then go down there for the big event.
Well, this gets to Mac. Now, Mac has texted in, what do you think is the ideal distance for AB? He seems to thrive at 1,400 up to a mile, says Mac.
Yes, well, I think that there's a lot of merit in saying that, because obviously 1,400 was the Magic Millions, a mile, 1,400 was the CS Hayes, a mile was the Australian Guineas. So he has been dominant over those distances. But in saying that, I think that fresh, he can run 1,200 with the best. And indeed, as I mentioned earlier, his closing sectionals over 1,400 when he won the CS Hayes were better than the 1,000-metre Lightning with Redzel and Nature Strip competing.
Which is quite phenomenal, isn't it, those sectional times? Now, Paul has texted in. Now, to win the Everest, Paul says, you've got to be the best sprinter in the world. I think that's pretty fair summation. How much improvement is left in Alligator Blood, and where do you see the improvement coming from?
Good question, Paul. Look, I think that the 8 weeks in the paddock, that nature has given us some improvement. It's very hard to quantify that at the moment because it's early days in his preparation. But from what we've seen previous, and keeping in mind this further maturity that I'm now seeing materialise, I think that we'll see a better horse this preparation, which is really scary because, you know, as I said on some of those previous performances, he can compete with the best. But the new Alligator Blood going forward, he could be the best.
Fair, good response. Andrew has fired in this question. I would like to ask David, by what date would he and the owners need to secure a slot for the Everest to allow him to train the horse for a peak performance in the Everest, considering it's 1,200 metres? Because your prep can change, can't it?
It can. And I'm currently preparing him for the Everest and then the Golden Eagle. That's my current agenda. So whether we secured a slot today or in 2 months' time wouldn't affect the job I'm doing at the moment.
Okay. We saw Yes, Yes, Yes was secured, I think, 9 days out from the start of the race last year and won it.
Yes, well, because there's the Silver Eagle 3 weeks before the Golden Eagle, we'd give some consideration to running in the Silver Eagle if we didn't secure a slot in the Everest. So 9 days out wouldn't work for us, but if we secured a slot, say 6 to 8 weeks out, it wouldn't change our course.
Clive has a question, and we should probably let everybody know that was such a dramatic Magic Millions day, wasn't it, David? It must have been like the never-ending day for you. I guess we'll fill everybody in. First, there was the car crash on the freeway, and the race was delayed to make sure the horses could get there. And I think Alligator Blood ended up getting a police escort to the track.
Well, actually, it was the other float that got the police escort that was still on the highway. Right. It had quite a few horses in it that were competing in the 2-year-old race, which is straight after the race Alligator Blood ran and won in. We actually took a detour off the main road, and Emma Lehman, who was my second in charge, was in there with Tara Pitt, who was another member of my staff. And I was talking to them constantly as they were taking back roads to get down to the Magic Millions on a very humid and hot day, to try and get there. And keeping in mind, it was 50-50. We didn't know whether we were going to be there or not. And we're $1.90 in a $2 million race. So was it stressful? Was it a big day? Was it emotionally charged? My word, it was.
And then I guess it got a little bit more stressful because you would have been more shocked than anybody. Recorded that positive test. I guess the question here from Clive is, have they completed their inquiry yet? Why hasn't Queensland Racing completed their inquiry yet into that positive B sample from Alligator Blood from Magic Millions Day? Can you give everybody a little bit of an update? I know the inquiry is ongoing, but where it's at?
Look, the inquiry is ongoing, and because it's such a big race, and Alligator Blood such a popular horse, it's important that everyone crosses their T's and dots their I's. So, like you said, it's ongoing. No one's sitting on their hands at the moment, and that's about all I can say.
Yeah, but for the horse going forward, there's no ill effects, or the horse has come back fine and will just continue to race on.
Well, as you said, I had no idea how Altrenogus could have got in his system. I mean, it's not a performance-enhancing drug, and I've had over 300 horses swabbed since I got to Queensland, and they've all come back clear, apart from this. And he, all his previous swabs before the Magic Millions and after the Magic Millions were all clear. So, why did he have the irregularity? I don't know.
David, your jockey you've had great success with, and he's had great success on Alligator Blood, Ryan Maloney. He's stoked the old fire a little bit this week. Because he actually rode the favourite early in the preparation, and he believes your horse is much more tractable and much more versatile than Nature Strip.
Yes, well, I mean, Nature Strip is a deserved favourite. He's a very good horse. And, look, I'm glad to have a jockey that's confident.
He's not getting back on Nature Strip, I know that now.
I don't want him back on Nature Strip, so that suits us just fine.
It's been a really good partnership, hasn't it?
Between...
yourself and Ryan?
Oh, look, I think we're sitting about 40%. He's had 71 rides for 28 winners for me, which is right up there in the best combination in Australia. And look, we're good mates. And Jeff, Robin and Alan, they're good mates with Ryan as well. It's just a wonderful group of people involved, but there is room for 1,000 more.
Yeah, very, very good response. I should let you know too that majority of the shares or the micro slots have actually gone in the miEverest runner so far. But David, about 30% of them have actually come from Queensland. So maybe there's a little bit of a hint there.
Oh, well, that's good. I'm glad that we've got some local support. I mean, let's face it, he's going to be Queensland Horse of the Year, I'd imagine. And, you know, the Queenslanders got behind him with the voting for the All-Star Mile, and he is very popular in Queensland, but he is a horse that represented Australia against Catalyst. So everyone can get involved.
Yeah, fantastic. And mate, when you think about it, I guess a cost is always a thing, and the industry is an expensive industry. But this, your background really was in the beginning, down in Kembla, then Warwick Farm, and then of course I know you spent time overseas in the United States and also Japan. But you always had that reputation of getting horses that had been squeezed a lot, and you'd get them and try and your record with tried horses is fantastic. For one like Alligator Blood to come along after a Yankee Rose, it must just be like you're having a career all over again.
Oh, certainly is. And look, when I moved from Warwick Farm, I wasn't expecting Alligator Blood to walk in the stable. And I came up with Yankee Rose, and we'd won one Group 1 in Sydney, and then we went to Melbourne and won another one. We won 2 in Sydney, the Champion Stakes and the Sires. And when she retired, I thought, well, I can just go back to being under the radar and train a few winners in Brisbane. But Alligator Blood's just turned my career, right back to where it was when Yankee Rose was in, but it's even gone to the next level. I mean, and it's not over yet. That's the exciting part. We've got the horse back. He's in good shape. And he's got wonderful owners. They're just terrific people to be involved with.
Right. Well, I'll let you go, mate, because I know it's a very, very long day for you. But we've got our expert judging panel. So Lizzie Gels from Sky, legendary cricketer and mad racing fanatic Mark Wars on that panel, form expert Daniel O'Sullivan, along with champion jockey Ty Anglin. But all our unit holders actually get a vote as well, and they'll help that panel pick the horse that goes into the miEverest slot. So thank you so much for your insight, and Alligator Blood sort of fits the profile pretty well for miEverest.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. David Vandyke there, the trainer of Alligator Blood. We'll get your feedback as well. You can go to that website. Don't forget there are still micro slot units available, myrunners.com/miEverest. myrunners.com/miEverest. Thanks again to David Vandyke.